Welcome to Logos Bible Software Tutorials. I know it's been a while, but now I'm going to get into. So I did an overview of the grammatical constructions tool. Now, so I covered first conditional, second conditional. I just covered it briefly. Now I'm going to dive into the grammatical construction of the first conditional clause. Let's get into it. All right, here we are. As always, I start with a blank screen. Now we're going to come in here and first we're going to pull up my ESV Bible. Let's go to Matthew chapter 4. I know there is a first conditional clause here, and this spot right here, I'm going to right click. One way that you can find a first conditional clause is by the context menu. I'm gonna click this first class conditional. But I'm gonna click here and go down to search in Bible, and voila, it has so this clause right here. Let me put this in a note file and just make it bigger so you can see. Let's make it to a note. So we're going to do notes. I'm going to make a new note over here. And just so you can see these things a whole lot bigger. And we're going to paste with that right here. This is what let's make this bigger. This is what you want to search in this is the search that you see right here. So here's the grammatical constructions. Every time that it occurs, that you're going to see it. One of the things I want to point at, let me go to more view, and undo the interlinear. So, and it's going to search all these terms. I want to give you some resources that's going to help you to understand what's going on with some of these Greek terms. So the first book is by a guy by the name of Daniel B. Wallace. Just going to search here, Wallace. I have a lot of his stuff. I like his older. Maybe I like his older one because I am just more used to that. We're going to open this into a floating window, and I already have it up. So in his grammar here on the conditional sentences, he's got here's the structural categories, the semantic range. So he starts to define them of what they are. So that's this is very helpful in understanding what's going on with the first class conditional. So the first it has the protasis, which is the if, it's the condition, and the opotasis is the then or the result. So if this happens, then this should be the result. And that's those are some of the things that are going on with the first class conditional. But I also want to bring up another book that's becoming one of my favorites. It's a guy by the name of Plummer. His actual name is Rob Plummer, and his book is a intermediate. He's also the one who does the Daily Dose, going deeper with the Greek New Testament. I already have it up. It's in this section, sentences, diagramming, and discourse analysis. But he goes into length of the condition, the protasis, if, the opotasis, as well as a general definition. And he says the same thing as Wallace does, and I'll point out. The speaker or writer presents the protasis as true for the sake of argument. So if this is true, let's assume this is true, then the result should be this. As I go into the grammar of this one right here, he says the first class conditional indicates the assumption of true for the sake of argument. The normal idea then is if, and let's assume that this is true for the sake of our exact same wording by Plummer. He goes on to say that this is used 300 times. And that's, if we look into our search here, 300 and 317 verses. So let's go into Matthew chapter 4:3. And I also want to bring up, so the condition starts here. If you are the Son of God, so that is the condition, the if as well as the protasis. If you are the Son of God, if this is true, then you should be able to command these thrones. So he is questioning his divinity. The whole point is a rhetorical usage here is to get Jesus to do something that he's not supposed to do at this time. Now, I want to show you, I'm going to use the LGNT, which is one of my favorite, the Lexham Discourse Greek New Testament. So right here is, so here is the if, and the rest of all this, really the condition, which includes the verb and all that is accompanied that verb. So the condition is, if you are the Son of God, that's the condition that's set, then you should be able to order these stones to become bread. That is what is going on here with the first class conditional. So assume true for the sake of true. So if you are the Son of God, then you should be able to do this. It's Satan is trying to get Jesus to work outside the bounds that he was meant to. Now, it's important when you are preaching and teaching and you're learning about these that you do not make language robotic. Because language is in no way, shape, or form is it ever robotic. So your goal in understanding the protasis and the opotasis is that you bring out the nuance that the language is bringing out. So it's the same thing here. He does a first class condition here. What's interesting, when you go down here, in this last, so there's only two first class conditional class in this passage. And you will see that there is no condition. There is no other conditions here. Let's go down to Matthew 5:29. Let's bring this over here. Makes our life easier. If your right eye causes you to sin, so that's the condition. The result is tearing out. This is almost like a not hyperbole, to really accentuate, if you will, the seriousness of sin and how we are to deal with sin. So once again, my point is when bringing up, do not make, because you're learning, because you're using the grammatical constructions, do not make it robotic. Bring out the nuance that the language is trying to communicate. And the whole point in here is that we are to deal seriously with sin, so seriously that we would be willing to rip off a body part. Sin is such a terrible thing that we must be willing to tear it out. Yeah, so there's Matthew 6:30. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, that's the condition, which is alive and tomorrow is thrown in the oven. The result. So all this, so the condition is here. So let's look at the Greek. Let's look at what's going on with Matthew chapter 6:30. We want to look at so the condition is here. Where do we see a verb? So this is a participle. So this is a participle. That's not in. Yeah. So the condition, so if tomorrow, here, all of this is the condition. If the grasses are field or clothes, and the Protestant is thrown away, and he addresses it, and the Greek is choppy here, but all of this is the condition. This is the result. Will he not more do so for you? So the point is, so let me bring this out over here. So, but if he, which is alive today and thrown in the oven, will he not more? So if God closed the field, which is today is alive and tomorrow is thrown away, all that is the condition. The result, if he did that for the field, the point here is to bring out the nuance that is going on here in this passage. So if this is true, then how much more will this be true? It's presenting as something as true to highlight something greater in the result. That's how it looks in narrative. It functions very similar. Let's pull up some stuff. Let's pull up Romans 5:10. For if while we were enemies, so that's the condition. For while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his son. How much more now that we are reconciled by his life? So when we're looking at this is Romans 5:10. So here's the condition. We were reconciled through the death of his son. The result, how much more will be saved through his life? The point is, if it's true that we are reconciled by his death, then how much more are we saved also by his life? Presenting, in this case, it's presenting something as true for the sake of argument to highlight something greater. Once again, we do not set this up as, so we do not in any way, shape, or form make the language robotic, where we're learning about the first class conditional here so that we can teach, we can preach. So we are hot. So we want the people to understand it as though that they were sitting listening to Paul or listening to Jesus. The point is, when you're using when they're using the first class conditional, they're often presenting something true to highlight something great. So if this is true, then how much greater is this? Thank you very much for joining me in this discussion of. I almost forgot. So if you want to know how to, let's go to the documentation of the grammatical construction. I almost forgot about it. Let's kind of go grammatical construction. So anything that you want to know, I go into the manual here, and it's here. One thing that you're going to see, this is for the first statement. So when I click here, it's going to have a slightly different one, but it still gives the same results. But when I want to point this out here, and let's make this bigger. Section grammatical constructions, first class conditional. Here's the other one that you could use. Both are used. Go into the documentation, and it will give you some stuff here, like in here is the first class conditional. I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm gonna be doing more. I'm gonna be doing one on the second class conditional next week. You have a wonderful day. See you next time.